I've talked about this in my initial CrossWorlds video, but I think it would be mind-blowingly in touch if Sega decided to pull the trigger on Crossplay for a simple racing game. We're pretty sure this is a feature because the Steam and Xbox pages claim so. Some people thought this just meant Steam and Epic at first, but Xbox has it too. Maybe it just means Xbox Series X and Xbox One, I'm not really sure. But why would this be great? Well, Transformed and TSR are very dead games. On their best days, they can pull 100 to 150 players on just PC. I checked the numbers a while ago and they weren't that impressive. There's a very cheap sale right now, and they're hitting around these numbers because of a sale. Console numbers might be even worse because their accessibility fades over time. Now, don't get me wrong here, Sega is a king when it comes to racing games. They have some of the most iconic names under their belt: Outrun, Hang On, Daytona, Sega Rally, Virtua Racing, Crazy Taxi, and probably even more I'm not aware of. It just feels like in the past 15 years, it's been increasingly common to overlook spin-offs for platforming mascots. Mario is usually always in good graces with people because his main franchise presence is strong. Characters like Rayman and Sonic were never really known for their side series, with the outlier being Sonic Riders. But think about how many other series Sonic has tried that no one really talks about. And let's be honest here, sports games are boring unless they're Mario. Party games are underwhelming unless they're Mario. Kart racing is owned by Mario. It's easy to see why people pool their trust and interest into just this one series, whereas other platformers are forced to stay in their lane with mainline titles. My point here is that thousands of people do not hop onto a multiplayer game unless it has Mario, a gun, or a ball in it. Racing games are almost a lost art at this point. As time has gone on, players have cared less and less about a variety of genres and have orbited within their comfort zones. It used to be a lot more common to give these genres a chance, but it doesn't really help that there's so much games releasing nowadays compared to 30 years ago. But because of this, a lot of people miss out on how good certain games like Transformed were. I bet there's a lot of people out there who are less interested in Transformed than TSR simply because there are characters they don't recognize compared to just Sonic Cast. And when in reality, these games play very differently from each other below the surface. I think Transformed is 2 times the realized concept that TSR is. This blows because I've heard from multiple hardcore arcade game lovers that Transformed is one of the best kart racers they've touched. I had my first experience with this game on a PS Vita in 2018. I wasn't expecting much out of it, but I was surprised by how fun it actually was. I came out of that session believing it deserved to stand on par with Mario Kart. A lot of people won't see it this way though, because why take a chance on a game that has Wreck-It Ralph, Shadow the Hedgehog, and the Yogs cast? That being said, we're in an era where Sega knows how to represent Sonic to the general public now. He isn't extremely childish anymore. He's embracing his cool side again. You know, like a Sonic post from 2 years ago would peak at maybe 3,000 likes. But it's been really common to see a Sonic post past like 20,000 likes these past few months. Sega's work to repair Sonic's image is paying off. People are interested. But sadly, even with all this attention that's happening right now, it's simply not enough to make a tennis or racing spin-off into a sensation. You can only do that with trust and reputation. Like, Mario Kart is great, but it lives off the legacy of its name in every casual conversation I've listened to. Even with the brand of Sonic, the promise of a huge cast with every character you could ask for, great mechanics and game feel on par with MK8, and an online focus with DLC, you'd still be able to expect this game to fizzle out after its initial launch window. Kinda like what happened with Superstars multiplayer. You know, some people just can't get into these games, and that's fine. But with Mario Kart, it's always an event that everyone wants to be a part of. Whereas Sonic Racing is just viewed as filler. It doesn't have to be this way. There are a ton of deep and unique video games out there, but some succeed and some don't for no fault of the game design. Sometimes it's just interest. Like for example, Among Us didn't take off until 2 years after its release. It was sitting there the whole time, and it just needed enough eyes on it. And it's not like Inner Sloth was a niche company, they made Henry Stickmin. The good news is, Sonic has something that other mascots don't. A very obsessed player base. Most of your sales and players on this game are going to come from the widest demographic possible. The minority will be the diehards, the gamers, the grinders, the Turbo Sonic obsessed that need to play over and over just because this is the newest game. I don't really hear about this kind of thing for Crash Bandicoot or Spyro or Pac-Man. Since there's so much to play these days, and games run on word of mouth more than anything, you're gonna expect your niche games to have maybe 100 people per platform. Your matchmaking games are gonna be unreliable and are gonna take a long time to find. Let's think about it. How many people in this player count are actually queuing online, and how many people are playing offline? You might have to cut your hypothetical 200 players in half. Now you have 100 people looking for games. Pretty good, right? Well, that's only enough people to fill around 8 races. 8. And I'm not talking consecutively, I'm saying at the same time. You can compare the numbers on Steam charts, people still lose interest even after content drops. In my opinion, crossplay is a necessity for games that don't have a gun or a ball in it. You can easily multiply your player base by 4 this way. You're going to have access to Switch, PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. Even at its smallest, you'll likely be able to fill your day with gameplay. And that's not even considering how many people want to grind this game just because they prefer Sonic over Mario. On top of this, Sega could really nail CrossWorlds by sweetening the deal with the biggest roster and DLC. You notice how crossplay and post-launch support are symptoms of ball and gun games? Like, sometimes people don't care about older genres, but sometimes we need these genres to evolve with the times as well. If you want CrossWorlds to feel exciting to everyone, you need to satisfy the standards of a game someone would grind these days. I'm not saying we need something like a battle pass, but CTR tried it and I'm not gonna lie, it seemed kind of fun. See, a good example of a battle pass is Rivals of Aether 2, a fighting game. It gives me more to look forward to when I press buttons for 3 hours. They do monthly events with free items, kinda just like Sonic Rumble already does. Long story short, if Sega's willing to put in this kind of maintenance, it's gonna gain our trust that they're confident in this. This game can be more than just Sonic but cars, like TSR was. TSR had glimpses of unique ideas and fun details, but it never really challenged the idea of it being just a spin-off game. CrossWorlds already looks competitive with its promise for ranked modes and updates, and it could be crazier all while unifying the player base. From what I've watched, this game already feels like more than just driving down a road, Sonic Edition. CrossWorlds also has its own dedicated Twitter account. The only other Sonic game I can think of that has this is Rumble. Coincidentally, this is an online-focused game with crossplay. Other games I can think of that have their own Twitter accounts is things like Splatoon, a live service game. Rumble is a lot more blatant about trying to be live service, and I sorta think CrossWorlds should follow this. Now, I don't want my wallet wrung dry with content drops all the time. I think CrossWorlds would best follow a release schedule similar to Smash Bros. Or Splatoon, something with a definite end after a few years. And when this game does end eventually, we're still gonna have ranked mode and leaderboards to be occupied with. This current era of Sonic breathes the definition of effort, if you ask me. The artists and writers are making stuff on par with the gorgeous Sonic Channel stories and art we've casually posted around all these years. But now we're seeing it in the games, the main products. The game development teams are also taking criticism directly from social media, and it seems like the public faces at Sega are willing to communicate with us. And this feels like the highest effort racing game they've attempted since the writers' era, and I really hope they continue to push this further. I don't want to feel unsatisfied with this game, because this will be my first time giving a spin-off a proper shot in years, man. Sega caught lightning in a bottle again recently with Sonic. They can go big with this. Sonic needs to stop limiting itself. You know how much a Miku DLC would sell? Anyways, I'm actually excited for this game. I've never been excited for a Sonic racing game before. They're bringing in all the stuff that we liked from the past games with the extreme gear, the character dialogue interactions, a snappy control system. They got developers from like classic Sega racing games on this. It has all of the formula necessary to hit the big leagues, but I do still think they're gonna have to try harder than other companies for this game to be a smash hit. They just have to go this extra mile with post-launch content, and hopefully crossplay. Anyways, if you're new here, consider checking out my other Sonic videos. I cover content both fan-made and official, and I want to start integrating more scripted videos into my catalog. I usually do mod showcases where I talk about how cool everything is. Thanks for watching, guys, I really appreciate it.